Have you ever wondered what happens when the most powerful man on earth begins to rot while he is still alive? What if I told you that the tyranny, the beheadings, and the chaos of the Tudor dynasty were not born from a cruel heart, but from a single, jagged splinter of bone burying itself into a king's thigh? Imagine a pain so constant, so blinding, that it rewires your brain, turning you from a golden hero into a paranoid monster. We often look for the causes of history in grand treaties and battlefields, but sometimes the fate of a nation is decided by the smell of necrotic flesh and a wound that refuses to close. This is not just a story about a king. It is a medical autopsy of a man trapped inside a dying body. It wasn't a horror movie. It was everyday reality in Greenwich Palace on a cold January morning in the year 1536. The man we are about to meet is not the bloated, obese figure you see in the famous Holbein portraits. Not yet. He is tall, muscular, an athlete in the prime of his life. But in exactly 10 seconds, the ground will shake, a horse will fall, and the king will die, only to wake up as something else entirely. Before we dive into this darkness, hit like if you are ready to stomach the truth. Now. Lights out. The date is January 24th, 1536. The air in the tilt yard at Greenwich is crisp, biting at the exposed skin of the spectators. The crowd is a sea of velvet and wool, thousands of eyes fixed on the 2 lanes of packed earth that run parallel down the center of the arena. The noise is deafening, the clang of armor, the snorting of destriers, the nervous chatter of courtiers. Queen Anne Boleyn sits in the royal box, her hands resting on her stomach. She is pregnant with the male heir that King Henry VIII so desperately craves. Everything hangs in the balance today. The mood is electric, but fragile. At one end of the barrier sits King Henry. He is 44 years old. He stands 6 feet 2 inches tall, a giant for his time. He is encased in a suit of Greenwich armor, a masterpiece of steel engineering that weighs nearly 90 pounds. He feels invincible. He is the golden prince of the Renaissance, a man who prides himself on his physical dominance. He lowers the visor of his helmet. The world narrows to a thin slit of light. The smell of oil, sweat, and cold steel fills his nose. He grips the heavy wooden lance, feeling the familiar texture of the wood through his gauntlets. At the other end of the track is his opponent. The signal drops. The physics of a joust are terrifying. You have 2 horses, each weighing over 1,000 pounds, charging at 20 miles per hour. When they collide, the force is equivalent to a modern car crash. Henry spurs his horse forward. The animal, time 1.3, draped in heavy caparisons and armored plating, thunders down the lists. The ground shakes, a literal tremor that the spectators feel through the soles of their shoes. The impact happens in a heartbeat. But it isn't the lances shattering that causes the disaster. It is the king's horse. Perhaps it stumbled. Perhaps the armor was too heavy. In a blur of motion that happens too fast for the crowd to scream, the massive animal loses its footing. It doesn't just fall, it somersaults. The beast rolls over, a chaotic tangle of hooves and steel. And underneath it, trapped in the mud, is the King of England. Silence slams into the arena. It is absolute. A stillness so heavy it feels like a physical way. Time, 0.5s. The horse, panicked and thrashing, struggles to stand, its immense weight grinding down. Henry does not move. He does not cry out. He lies crumpled in the dirt, the full weight of the armored horse crushing his legs into the frozen earth. Courtiers vault over the barriers. The Duke of Suffolk rushes forward, his face drained of blood. They heave the horse off the monarch. Henry is unconscious. His armor is dented, covered in mud. His visor is pried open, revealing a face that is slack and pale. For 2 hours, the King of England lies in a coma. The physicians hover, terrified to touch him, terrified to do nothing. The word whispers through the palace, corridors like a poison gas. The king is dead, up in the royal box. The shock sends Queen Anne into a state of hysterical grief. The trauma of seeing her husband crushed triggers a biological catastrophe. Days later, she will miscarry a son. The fall didn't just break the king, it killed his heir. But Henry does not die, not in the way they expect. 2 hours later, a groan echoes from the royal chambers. The king's eyes flutter open, but the man who wakes up is not the man who fell. The damage to his legs is catastrophic. The heavy armor and the rolling horse have crushed the muscle and splintered the bone. On his calf, an old wound, a minor injury from years before, has burst open under the pressure. The doctors strip away. The steel grieves. What they find is a leg that is angry, swollen, and purple. The skin is tight, shiny with fluid. The trauma has caused a deep bone infection, likely osteomyelitis. In the 16th century, there are no X-rays to see the fragments of bone floating in the tissue. There are no antibiotics to fight the bacteria now colonizing the crushed muscle. There is only prayer and the brutal, ignorance-fueled methods of Tudor medicine. The pain is instant and white-hot. It is a throbbing, grinding agony that pulses with every beat of his heart. Henry tries to sit up, but the agony forces him back down. His athletic career is over. He will never joust again. He will never run again. Time qui point fives. The endorphins of exercise, which he has relied on for decades to regulate his mood and his metabolism, are cut off instantly. The physicians stare at the leg. They see the bruising turning black. They smell the faint, copper tang of blood mixed with the sweeter, sickly scent of infection beginning to take hold. They know that if the bad humors are not released, the king will die. So, they prepare their instruments, sharp lancets, probes, salves made of lead and mercury. They tell the king to bite down on a piece of leather. There is no anesthesia. This is the beginning of the end. The wound on his leg will never truly heal. For the next 11 years, it will ulcerate, close, and burst open again, trapping the king in a cycle of excruciating pain and septic fever. The poison from this leg will seep into his blood, and slowly, surely, it will seep into his mind. The Henry who wakes up in Greenwich is a man in constant, unyielding torture. And a man in pain is a dangerous thing, especially when he holds the power of life and death over millions. The Golden Prince is dead. The tyrant is born in the mud. To understand the tragedy of the monster, we must first look upon the angel. Before the stench, before the puss, and before the executions, Henry Tudor was not a bloated tyrant. He was a god walking on earth. Travel back 16 years before the accident. The year is 1520. We are at the Field of the Cloth of Gold in France. The sun is high and fierce, glinting off thousands of tents made of actual gold cloth. The heat is palpable, shimmering off the dry grass. In the center of a wrestling ring stands a man who looks less like a king and more like a mythological creature carved from marble. This is Henry VIII at 29 years old. He stands 6 feet, 2 inches tall. In the 16th century, where the average man is barely 5'6", Henry is a giant. He towers over his court, over his soldiers, over the French king. He is broad-shouldered, with a chest like a barrel and a waist that measures a lean 32 inches. His hair is a burning red gold, cropped short to reveal a strong, square jawline. His skin is fair, flushed pink with the exertion of the sport. Listen to the sound of the crowd. It is a roar of genuine adoration. Venetian ambassadors, men who have seen the splendors of the East and the courts of Italy, scribble frantically in their dispatches home. They do not write about his policies. They write about his legs. He is the handsomest potentate I ever set eyes on, one ambassador writes, the scratch of the quill capturing the awe of the moment. He has extremely fine calves. It seems like a strange detail to focus on, the calves. But for Henry, his legs are his pride. They are pillars of muscle, shaped by hours of daily riding, dancing, and tennis. He wears his garters tight specifically to accentuate the bulge of the muscle. He is vain, deeply and unapologetically. He knows he is beautiful. He draws power not just from his crown, but from the sheer physical intimidation of his presence. He is a biological machine built for dominance. His daily life is a marathon that would kill a lesser man. He wakes at dawn. He spends hours hunting stags, galloping through the forests until the horses are frothing with exhaustion. He returns to the palace not to rest, but to wrestle. He grabs the French king, Francis I, by the collar, throwing him to the ground in a display of raw, competitive aggression. In the evenings, he dances, not a polite shuffle, but vigorous, leaping dances that require immense core strength and stamina. He leaps into the air, his heavy velvet robes swirling around him, landing with a thud that shakes the floorboards. He consumes 5,000 calories a day. Roast meats, game pies, pitchers of wine and ale. He tears into venison with his bare hands, grease slicking his fingers. In this golden era, the gluttony doesn't matter. His metabolism is a furnace. He burns through the fuel as fast as he can pour it in. He is an engine of pure energy, vibrating with a lust for life that is infectious. He is the lost Adonis, the perfect man. But there is a dark side to this perfection. Henry's identity is entirely wrapped up in his physicality. He does not see himself as a scholar king, though he is intelligent. He sees himself as a warrior king. His self-worth is tied to the strength of his arm and the speed of his legs. He believes that his physical health is a sign of God's favor. If he is beautiful and strong, it is because God loves him. Now, snap back to 1536. The room is dark. The curtains are drawn to keep out the light that hurts his eyes. The smell of sweat and sickness hangs heavy in the air. The Adonis is gone. The man lying in the bed is terrified. For the first time in his life, his body has betrayed him. The engine has stopped, but the fuel intake has not. The psychological horror begins here. Henry is a man addicted to movement, suddenly chained to a bed. He looks down at the leg that was once his pride, the famous calf that ambassadors wrote home about. It is no longer a pillar of muscle. It is a swollen mass of bandages. The muscle has atrophied, replaced by fluid and inflammation. The definition is gone, hidden under layers of angry, red flesh. Imagine the psychological toll. For a narcissist like Henry, this is not just an injury, it is a humiliation. He can feel the strength leaking out of him. He tries to stand, and his knees buckle. He calls for his armor, but the breastplate feels tighter. The waist that was 32 inches is expanding. The muscle turns to soft, yielding fat. The courtiers notice. They avert their eyes. They stop complimenting his grace. The silence where the praise used to be is deafening. Henry sees the pity in their eyes, and he hates them for it. He hates the weakness he feels in his own limbs. He begins to eat to fill the void. If he cannot hunt, he will feast. If he cannot ride, he will drink. The furnace that once burned the calories is cold, but he keeps shoveling in the coal. The transformation is slow, hideous, and inevitable. The golden hair begins to thin and gray. The face, once square and handsome, begins to puff up, the eyes disappearing into folds of flesh. The tragedy of the lost Adonis is not just that he got old. It is that he was frozen in time by trauma. Inside the decaying mountain of flesh, the 29-year-old athlete is screaming, unable to run, unable to fight, trapped in a prison of his own making. The ghost of the golden boy haunts the bedside of the rotting king, a constant reminder of everything he has lost. And as the beauty fades, the cruelty begins to sharpen. If he cannot be loved for his perfection, he will be feared for his power. Imagine a medical procedure where the cure is more terrifying than the disease. Imagine the King of England, the defender of the faith, gripping the bedposts until his knuckles turn white, while a man in a blood-stained apron approaches him with a glowing red-hot iron. There is no anesthetic. There is no sterilization. There is only the belief that burning the flesh will scare the sickness away. Welcome to the nightmare of Tudor medicine, where the line between doctor and torturer is non-existent. The room smells of singed hair and cooking meat. It is the king's own flesh. The leg ulcer is a stubborn, sentient beast. It is not just a wound. It is a complex ecosystem of bacteria. Staphylococcus aureus and Streptococcus behave like microscopic armies, digging trenches into the royal tissue. The wound on his calf has become fistulous. It has tunneled deep, creating pockets of infection that connect to the bone. The opening at the surface is small, a weeping sore the size of a coin, but underneath, the rot spreads like tree roots. The royal physicians are the best minds of their generation, but they are fighting with one hand tied behind their backs and the other holding a book of astrology. They operate on the theory of the four humors. They believe the body is a balance of blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. The pus oozing from the king's leg is seen as a surplus of bad humors trying to escape. Their job, they believe, is not to heal the wound, but to keep it open. Yes, you heard that right. To keep it open. If the wound scabs over, the physicians panic. They believe the poison will be trapped inside the body and travel to the heart or brain. So, when nature tries to heal the king, the doctors step in to stop it. The toolkit of the Tudor surgeon is a horror show. First, they try cauterization. A metal iron is heated in a brazier of coals until it glows cherry red. The king is held down by strong servants, though few dare to touch him firmly. The physician presses the hot iron directly into the ulcer. The hiss is sickening. The heat instantly kills the nerve endings, but the shock to the system is profound. The purpose is to burn away the proud flesh, the overgrowth of granulation tissue that blocks drainage. Henry screams. It is a raw, animal sound that echoes through the stone walls of Hampton Court. When fire fails, they turn to mechanical torture. To keep the wound open, they insert tents. These are not camping gear, but tight rolls of linen or sponge, sometimes soaked in wax or irritating herbs. They jam these plugs into the open sore to prevent the skin from closing. Every time the king moves, the rough linen scrapes against the raw nerves exposed in the ulcer. Imagine having a piece of coarse fabric stuffed inside a deep cut on your leg, twisting every time you take a step. Then come the exotic remedies. Desperation drives them to madness. They grind up pearls, crushing priceless gems into a fine white powder, and mix them with grease to pack into the wound. They believe the purity of the pearl will purify the flesh. They catch live frogs, slice them open, and bind the pulsating, cold bodies directly onto the sore, believing the frog will absorb the poison. They mix ointments of lead, turpentine, and mercury. The mercury is particularly dangerous. While it has mild antiseptic properties, it is a neurotoxin. Slowly, Day by day, they are rubbing madness directly into the king's bloodstream. The leg becomes a living laboratory. It is a landscape of weeping sores, burnt flesh, and chemical irritation. The skin around the ulcer turns black and hard, like leather. The smell begins to change. Time 0.5s. It is no longer just the metallic smell of blood. It is the sweet, cloying scent of decay. The king's nights are sleepless. He lies in the dark, the throbbing in his leg keeping time with the clock. He sweats through his linen sheets. The fever spikes, causing hallucinations. He sees enemies in the shadows. He suspects the doctors are poisoning him. Cut it, he demands in a delirium. Cut the demon out. But they cannot cut it out. Amputation is a death sentence. The shock would kill him, or the stump would infect. They are trapped. The king is trapped. And the worst part, the treatments work just enough to keep him alive, but never enough to cure him. They drain the pressure, giving him moments of relief, only for the infection to build up again. It is a cycle of torture. Pain, burning, relief. Pain, burning, relief. This constant, rhythmic agony begins to erode his patience. His temper becomes explosive. He strikes his servants. He yells at his ministers. The pain is a constant noise in his head, a static that makes it impossible to think clearly, impossible to feel empathy. The butcher surgeons are doing their best to save the king, but in their ignorance, they are creating a monster. Every time they press the hot iron to his skin, they sear away a little more of his humanitum. Time 0.5s. The leg is eating him alive, and the doctors are feeding it. Pain is a sound. For Henry VIII, it is a high-pitched ringing that never stops. It is not the sharp, screaming pain of a cut finger, nor the dull ache of a bruise. It is the deep, grinding vibration of osteomyelitis, infection of the bone. Imagine a drill slowly boring into the marrow of your thigh bone, turning the very structure that holds you up into a hollow, rotting cage. This is a pain that narcotics cannot touch. It is a pain that eats sleep. And when a king cannot sleep, his kingdom begins to bleed. The Golden Prince didn't just die in the mud. His mind is being slowly poisoned by his own blood. The infection has breached the fortress. Time 0.5s. For years, the battle was fought on the surface of the skin. The ulcers wept, the doctors cauterized, and the skin healed over. But the bacteria, the microscopic invaders, have retreated. They have dived deeper, bypassing the muscle and settling into the femur itself. Inside the hard casing of the bone, pressure builds. There is nowhere for the pus to go. The bone expands, pressing against the periosteum, the sensitive membrane rich in nerve endings wrapped around the bone. This is a specific kind of agony. It is boring pain. It feels like the leg is being crushed in a vice that tightens every hour. The physical toxicity is now becoming a mental toxicity. We must consider the biology of a tyrant. Henry is suffering from chronic sepsis. The bacteria are dumping toxins into his bloodstream 24 hours a day. These toxins cross the blood-brain barrier. They inflame the brain tissue. They cloud the judgment. The king sits in his privy chamber. It is late, long past midnight. The palace is silent, save for the changing of the guard outside. Henry stares into the fireplace. His eyes are glassy, rimmed with red. He has not slept more than 2 hours at a time for weeks. Sleep deprivation is an effective torture method used by interrogators to break the human will. Here, the king is torturing himself. In this twilight state of exhaustion and fever, reality begins to bend. Shadows in the corner of the room look like assassin. Time 0.5s. The whispering of servants in the hallway sounds like plotting. The pain makes him irritable, but the fever makes him paranoid. The charisma, that magnetic, boisterous charm that once made men love him, evaporates. It is replaced by a volatile, terrifying silence. The courtiers enter the room walking on eggshells. They watch his hands. If the king is gripping the arm of his chair, white-knuckled, they know the leg is flaring. They know that to ask for a favor now is to invite death. They speak in hushed tones, afraid that a sudden noise will trigger a rage. And the rage does come. It comes out of nowhere. A servant spills a drop of wine. In the past, Henry might have laughed and called for a clot. Time 0.5s. Now, he explodes. He screams, his face turning a dangerous shade of purple. He throws the goblet. He accuses the servant of trying to humiliate him, of being part of a vast, invisible conspiracy to undermine his authority. They are laughing at me, he thinks. They see me limping, and they laugh. The paranoia finds targets. It latches onto those closest to him. He looks at his wife, Queen Anne. He used to see a spirited, intelligent partner. Now, through the haze of pain, he sees a witch. He sees a woman who promised him a son and failed. He wonders if she is disgusted by his leg. He wonders if she talks about his weakness with her brother, George. The pain rewires his empathy. To feel empathy, you need the mental bandwidth to imagine someone else's feelings. But Henry has no bandwidth left. His entire universe has shrunk to the size of the ulcer on his thigh. He simply does not care if others are hurt. He is the one suffering, so he is the only one who matters. The poisoned mind begins to make policy decisions. The clarity of the young king, who wrote treatises and debated theology, is gone. The new Henry is reactive. He rules by impulse. If he feels pain, someone must be punished. He begins to dismantle the old world. The monasteries, the ancient structures of England, are torn down not just for their goal, time 2.3s, but because the king needs to exert control. He feels helpless in his own body, so he exercises absolute, brutal power over the body of the state. He destroys abbeys, crushes dissent, and demands absolute loyalty oaths. It is a desperate attempt to prove he is still strong. Look at me. His actions scream, "I can still destroy you." The tragedy is that the people around him do not understand the medical cause. They think the king has been corrupted by bad advisors, or that God is hardening his heart. They do not see the bacteria eating the bone. They do not see the toxins flooding the frontal lobe of his brain, inhibiting his impulse control. One evening, Thomas Cromwell, his most loyal fixer, approaches the king with a stack of papers. The king is groaning, his leg propped up on a velvet stool. The smell of the dressing is faint but present. Cromwell starts to speak about tax revenues. Henry snaps his head up. His eyes are wild. "Get out!" he roars. "You torment me with paper while I die." Cromwell backs away, bowing low. He sees the change. He realizes, with a cold pit in his stomach, that reason no longer lives here. The king is a wounded animal, lashing out at the bars of his cage. And in this cage, the animal has an axe. The mind is gone. The paranoia has set in. And now, the bodies will start to pile up. Power has a smell. In the history books, we imagine it smells like ink, parchment, and expensive perfume. But in the court of Henry VIII, power smelled like an open grave. Imagine walking into the most luxurious room in England, draped in gold and velvet, and being hit by a wall of stench so thick you can taste it on your tongue. It is the sickly sweet, copper tang odor of rotting meat. Now imagine you have to stand in that room, smile, and pretend you don't want to vomit, because the man emitting that smell can cut off your head with a snap of his fingers. This was the terrifying reality of the Privy Chamber. The king was rotting, and the court was forced to breathe it in. The year is 1540. The Palace of Whitehall is a masterpiece of Tudor architecture, but inside, the air is stagnant. The king's leg has entered a new, horrific phase. The ulcers are no longer just weeping serum, they are necrotic. The tissue is dying faster than the surgeons can cut it away. Anaerobic bacteria are thriving deep in the muscle, producing gases and waste products that carry a distinct, putrid odor. It is a smell that clings to everything. It settles into the heavy wool tapestries. It seeps into the wood paneling. It sticks to the clothes of anyone who enters the room. Henry is acutely aware of it. He is a man who was once obsessed with hygiene, who bathed more than any other monarch in Europe, who perfumed his shirts with rosewater and mousse. Time, 2.5s. Now, he cannot scrub the scent of death off his own skin. Watch the dance of the courtiers. It is a masterclass in deception. A young duke enters the chamber to deliver a report. Before he crosses the threshold, he pulls a nosegay from his belt. It is a small bundle of herbs, lavender, rosemary, and thyme. Or perhaps a pomander, an orange studded with cloves. He presses it casually to his nose, pretending to adjust his collar, taking a deep breath of the clean scent to steel himself. He walks in. The heat in the room is stifling because the king feels the cold intensely now. The smell hits the duke like a physical blow. His stomach turns. His instinct is to recoil, to cover his face, to run. But he freezes his face into a mask of polite adoration. He bows low. "Your Majesty," he says, forcing his breathing to be shallow. He tries not to inhale through his nose. Henry sits in his chair, his leg propped up on a velvet cushion. He watches the Duke. He sees the slight flinch at the door. He sees the watering eyes. He notices the pomander clutched too tightly in the Duke's hand. The king knows. This is the ultimate humiliation. The lost Adonis has become a source of physical revulsion. He sees the disgust in the eyes of his servants, his ministers, even his wives. He knows that when they leave his presence, they rush to the nearest window to gasp for fresh air. They go home and burn their clothes because the smell of the king attaches itself to them like a curse. This stench creates a prison of isolation. People stop lingering. The casual, intimate banter of the court dries up because no one wants to stay in the room a second longer than necessary. The king is left alone with his pain and his odor. To combat the smell, the staff works in a frenzy. They scatter fresh rushes on the floor daily, mixed with sweet-smelling meadow hay. They burn incense in braziers until the room is hazy with smoke. They wash the king's leg with vinegar and wine, trying to mask the rot. But you cannot mask the smell of gangrene. It cuts through the incense. It cuts through the vinegar. It is the scent of mortality, primal and undeniable. Time, 05s. This isolation breeds a dark resentment in Henry. He begins to hate the healthy people around him. He hates their clear skin, their easy movement, and above all, he hates that they can walk away from the smell while he is trapped in it. He begins to test them. He summons courtiers close, leaning in, forcing them to endure his proximity. He watches their faces for a crack in the mask. If he sees a wrinkled nose or a held breath, he marks that man as an enemy. It becomes a twisted loyalty test. Can you stomach me? The stench of power effectively clears the room of anyone who isn't sycophantic enough or terrified enough to stay. The only people left are the hardliners, the manipulators, and the liars. People who will endure any horror to be close to the crown. The atmosphere in the court shifts from celebration to endurance. The music plays, but the dancers are stiff. The feasts are laid out, but the appetites are gone. A miasma of decay hangs over the Tudor dynasty, a literal cloud that follows the king wherever he goes. And in this lonely, smelly room, the king's mind turns darker still. If he cannot be desired, he will be obeyed. If they are disgusted by his leg, he will make them terrified of his voice. The stench isolates him, and in that isolation, the last shreds of his mercy begin to rot away alongside his flesh. Can a leg ulcer execute a queen? We like to think history is driven by logic, by grand plots and political strategies. But what if the beheading of Anne Boleyn wasn't about adultery or treason? What if the decision to swing the sword was triggered by a spike in inflammation? We are about to connect the dots on a graph that historians often ignore. The timeline of King Henry's medical charts versus the timeline of his atrocities. The correlation is terrifying. When the king's leg flared, heads rolled. The pain wasn't just a symptom, it was the executioner. Let's look at the data. May 1536, the month Anne Boleyn died. Just 4 months prior, the king had his accident at Greenwich. He is still in the acute phase of recovery. The wound is fresh, the infection is raging, and the bone fragments are likely shifting every time he moves. His pain levels are at a 10. His patience is at a 0. Anne Boleyn was a difficult woman. She was argumentative, intelligent, and fiery, traits Henry loved when he was healthy and chasing her. But to a man in chronic, blinding pain, argumentative becomes intolerable. He no longer has the energy for debate. He wants peace. He wants a nurse, not a sparring partner. When the rumors of Anne's adultery reach him, rumors likely planted by Cromwell, Henry doesn't investigate with a cool head. He explodes. The pain in his leg acts as an accelerant. It shortens his fuse. He cannot sleep. He cannot think. And here is a problem he can solve with a single order. He can't cut off his leg, but he can cut off her head. The speed of her downfall is shocking. Arrested on the 2nd, tried on the 15th, executed on the 19th. It is a blitzkrieg of justice driven by a man who just wants the noise to stop. Now, fast forward to 1540, the execution of Thomas Cromwell. This happens during a severe heat wave. Heat makes the ulcer worse. It causes the limb to swell, the blood vessels to dilate, and the smell to intensify. Henry is miserable. His leg is closed up again, a dangerous sign, meaning the sepsis is building internally. He is feverish and erratic. Cromwell, the man who engineered the Reformation, the most capable minister England ever had, suddenly finds himself on the wrong side of the king's mood. A botched marriage arrangement, Anne of Cleves, is the excuse. But the ferocity of Henry's reaction suggests something biological. He strips Cromwell of his titles and sends him to the block with barely a second thought. And then, Catherine Howard. 1541-1542. This is perhaps the saddest chapter. Henry is 50 years old. He marries a teenager, desperate to recapture his youth. For a moment, the endorphins of a new romance mask the pain. He travels north. He feels better. But then, the inevitable crash. While on progress in the north, the king falls ill. The leg flares up violently. He is bedridden for days, humiliated that his young bride sees him as an invalid. When the revelations of Catherine's past lovers come to light, the humiliation turns into a psychotic break. He doesn't just execute her, he wants to destroy her memory. The pain makes him vindictive. He weeps openly, then rages. He drafts a law making it treason for an unchaste woman to marry the king. It is the legislation of a wounded animal. We see a pattern emerging. The biography of the leg matches perfectly with the biography of the tyrant. 1536 accident. Anne Boleyn executed. 1538 severe flare-up. The Exeter conspiracy purges. Henry executes his cousins. 1540, heatwave, sepsis. Thomas Cromwell executed. 1541, flare-up during Northern Progress. Catherine Howard, downfall begins. 1543, chronic weakness. He marries Catherine Parr, a nurse figure, seeking care rather than passion. The pain stripped away his cognitive brakes. The frontal lobe, responsible for inhibition and reasoning, was constantly bombarded by stress hormones like cortisol. Chronic pain actually shrinks the gray matter in the brain over time. Henry was literally losing the brain power to be merciful. It wasn't that he woke up one day deciding to be evil. It was that the pain exhausted his ability to be good. Every decision became binary. Does this cause me stress? Yes. Then destroy it. When we look at the headless ghosts of the Tudor queens, we shouldn't just see the victims of a cruel husband. We should see the collateral damage of a medical disaster. The sword that fell on their necks was swung by the hand of a king, but the command was whispered by the agony in his bone. The leg was the true dictator of England. How do you hide a whale inside a palace? You don't. You just reinforce the floors. By the year 1545, King Henry VIII has become a geological event. He is no longer a man. He is a landmark. The waist that once measured a trim 32 inches has exploded to 54 inches. He weighs nearly 400 pounds. This is not just weight gain. This is a slow-motion burial. The king is being buried alive under mounds of his own adipose tissue. And the terrifying part, the mind inside this mountain of flesh is still the same hungry, restless athlete, screaming to get out. The physics of the king's life have completely collapsed. Let's do the math of the disaster. Henry is still eating like a linebacker, roast swans, venison pasties, jellied eels, gallons of ale and spiced wine. His intake is easily 5,000 calories a day, but his output is zero, time 0.5s. The leg ulcer has grounded him. He cannot run, he cannot hunt, he cannot even walk across a room without grimacing. The energy has nowhere to go, so it becomes prison walls of fat. The daily ritual of dressing the king becomes a logistical nightmare, more like rigging a ship than clothing a human. It takes 4 strong yeomen just to pull his hose up. His doublet is a tent of velvet, slashed and puffed not for fashion, but to allow the fabric to expand as he breathes. When he sits, he spills over the sides of the chair. When he lies down, the weight of his own chest presses against his lungs, causing him to wheeze and gasp for air. He suffers from sleep apnea, waking up hundreds of times a night, choking on his own bulk. This oxygen starvation only fuels his delirium and rage. But the king refuses to be invalid. He demands to move. And this creates the most humiliation spectacle of the Tudor court, the machine. Because Henry can no longer climb stairs, his engineers construct a complex system of wooden hoists and pulleys, a primitive elevator at Whitehall and Windsor. Imagine the scene. The King of England, God's anointed representative, is strapped into a heavy wooden chair. Thick hemp ropes are attached to the frame. Upstairs, a team of sweating servants grips the winch. Creak. Groan. Snap. The sound of the wood straining under the immense load echoes through the stairwell. The servants heave, their muscles burning. Slowly, inch by agonizing inch, the monarch is hauled up the vertical shaft. He sits silently, his face red with exertion though he is doing nothing. His eyes dart around, daring anyone to look, daring anyone to smirk. The indignity is absolute. He is a sack of grain being hoisted into a loft. Once he is upstairs, he needs to move through the long galleries. Walking is too painful. So, they invent a tram, a rolling chair pushed by servants. He glides through the palace like a ghost ship, silent except for the rumble of wheels on floorboards and the heavy, wet sound of his breathing. Meta, pause. Sex, 5. Utamaduki.5s. The courtiers press themselves against the walls to let the behemoth pass. They bow to the chair, but their eyes are fixed on the floor. They are terrified that the king will see the pity in their faces. Even his armor becomes a testament to his decline. Visit the Tower of London today, and you can see the progression. The armor of 1520 is sleek, tapered, V-shaped. The armor of 1540 is barrel-shaped, a rounded cage of steel designed to encompass a belly that hangs low and heavy. It looks less like a suit of war and more like a metal cauldron. Yet, Henry insists on riding. He refuses to give up the hunt. Getting him onto a horse requires a crane. Yes, a crane. They hoist the king into the air and lower him onto a specially bred, massive destrier, a horse with a back like a table, capable of carrying the crushing weight. Once in the saddle, he is strapped in. He cannot dismount on his own. If he falls, he will burst like a ripe fruit. The mountain of flesh is a tragedy of excess. He consumed everything, food, women, money, power, until it consumed him. He is trapped in a feedback loop. He eats to comfort the pain. The weight makes the leg worse. The leg makes him immobile. The immobility makes him fat, and the fat makes him eat. Deep inside the layers of suet and velvet, the heart is struggling to pump blood to the distant extremities. The circulation is failing. The legs are turning blacker. The extremities are going cold. The mountain is dying from the inside out. And as the body expands, the world around him shrinks. He is trapped in his chair, trapped in his room, trapped in his pain. The most powerful man on earth is a prisoner in his own skin. Betrayal is not always a dagger in the back. Sometimes it is a whisper in the dark, a hesitation, or a signature on a piece of paper that you didn't read. By 1546, Henry VIII is a man besieged. He is besieged by the French, besieged by the Scots, but most terrifyingly, he is besieged by his own body and the ghosts of the men he murdered. As the pain reaches its crescendo, the king begins to strike out blindly, convinced that everyone, from his wife to his bishops, is waiting for him to die. And he is right. They are waiting. The vultures are circling the dying lion, and the lion has one last roar left in him. The year is 1546. The end is near. The great betrayal is not a single event, but a collapse of trust. Henry's circle has shrunk to a handful of men. The old giants are gone. Wolsey died in disgrace, More beheaded, Cromwell executed. Now, he is surrounded by the new men, Seymour, Paget, Dudley. These are sharks. They smell blood in the water. They know the king is dying, and they are already positioning themselves to seize power over the boy king, Edward, who will inherit the throne. Henry knows this. He sees them whispering in corners. He sees the glances they exchange when he coughs up blood. He knows they are counting the days. His paranoia focuses on the one person who should be his sanctuary. Time 0.5's his sixth wife, Catherine Parr. Catherine is a reformer, a woman of deep Protestant faith. She nurses Henry, changing his bandages, enduring the smell, soothing his fevers. But she makes a fatal mistake. She argues with him about religion. One night, in the king's chambers, the pain is particularly bad. The ulcer is throbbing. Henry is irritable. Catherine, perhaps forgetting who she is talking to, pushes him on a point of theology. She lectures him. Henry explodes, not with a scream, but with a cold, terrifying quiet. "A good hearing it is," he rasps to Bishop Gardiner after she leaves. "When women become such clerks, and a thing much to my comfort, to come in mine old days to be taught by my wife. It is a death sentence. Gardner, seizing the opportunity, whispers poison into the king's ear. He calls the queen a heretic. He draws up a warrant for her arrest. And Henry, the man who claimed to love her, signs it. He signs the death warrant of the woman who is washing his sores. Why? Because the pain has made him a solipsist. He cannot tolerate contradiction. To disagree with the king is to increase his stress, and stress increases his pain. Therefore, disagreement is treason. The warrant is accidentally dropped in a hallway, where a friend of the queen finds it. Catherine rushes to the king, hysterical. She finds him in his chair, his leg propped up, his face a mask of stone. She throws herself at his feet. She claims she only argued with him to distract him from his pain, to learn from his wisdom. She plays the role of the submissive, foolish woman. Henry looks at her. He looks at the fear in her eyes. It feeds him. It proves he is still the alpha. Is it so, sweetheart? He smiles. And tended your arguments to no worse end. Then we are perfect friends again. The next day, when the guards come to arrest her, Henry beats them away with his cane, calling them knaves, beasts, fools. He saves her, but the message is clear. I can kill you. I chose not to. Remember that. This is the psychology of the abuser, amplified by agony. He needs to feel absolute control because his body is out of control. But the ultimate betrayal is happening inside his own council. They are forging his will. As Henry slips in and out of consciousness, the men around him, Seymour and Paget, are rewriting the future of England. They use a dry stamp, a wooden block with the king's signature carved on it, to sign documents without his knowledge. They are stealing the kingdom while he is still warm. Henry suspects it. He raves about traitors. He orders the Duke of Norfolk to be arrested and executed. Norfolk is one of his oldest friends, the premier peer of the realm. It doesn't matter. Henry wants blood to water his grave. He wants to take the old world with him. Norfolk is saved only by the clock. The king dies hours before the axe can fall. The great betrayal works both ways. The courtiers betray the king by plotting his demise, but Henry betrays his role as a king. A king is supposed to be the father of his people, the protector of the realm. Instead, in his final months, Henry becomes a localized natural disaster. He burns heretics, hangs traitors, and terrorizes his family, all to soothe the savage beast eating his leg. He is alone, truly alone. The sycophants are busy dividing up his lands. His wife is terrified of him. His son is a child who barely knows him. The only companion he has left is the pain. It is the only thing that is real. It is the only thing that will stay with him until the very last breath. Death does not care if you are a king. It does not knock politely at the palace gates. It kicks the door down. By January 1547, the most powerful man in Christendom is no longer fighting the Pope or the French. He is fighting for his next breath. Imagine lying in the dark, unable to move a single muscle, while your own body slowly poisons you from the inside out. You are blind. You are delirious. And as the silence closes in, the only things you can see are the faces of the people you killed. This is the dying of the light. The golden prince is gone. The tyrant is fading. Time zero-5. All that remains is a frightened old man facing the abyss. The date is January 27th, 1547. The king's bedchamber at Whitehall Palace is a tomb before the body is even dead. Henry VIII is dying of acute renal failure, likely complicated by sepsis from the leg ulcer and pulmonary embolism. His kidneys have stopped working. The waste products that should be filtered out, urea and creatinine, are flooding his blood. This condition, uremia, is a merciful killer in the end, as it leads to coma, but the road there is a nightmare of confusion and hallucinations. The king cannot see. His vision has failed, a common symptom of severe uremia. He stares up at the ceiling, his eyes milky and unseeing, tracking invisible movements. Who is there? He rasps. His voice, once a booming baritone that commanded army, time 0.3s, is now a wet, bubbling whisper. His doctors, the men who tortured him with hot irons for years, have stepped back. There is nothing left to burn. There is nothing left to cut. They know the end is hours away. But here is the supreme irony of the Tudor court. It is high treason to predict the king's death. To say the king is dying is a crime punishable by execution. So, the doctors stand in the shadows, paralyzed. They cannot tell him to prepare for God. They cannot call a priest. They simply watch him drown in his own fluids, afraid to speak the truth. Finally, Sir Anthony Denny, a brave courtier, breaks the law. He leans over the massive, time 0.3s, heaving bulk of the king. "Your Majesty," he whispers gently, "in man's judgment, you are not like to live." Henry pauses. The words hang in the air. For 38 years, no one has dared to tell him he is mortal. He struggles to process it. The ego that reshaped England, that defied the Vatican, that broke history itself, finally accepts defeat. "I will take a little sleep," Henry murmurs. "And then, I will advise of the matter." He never wakes up from that sleep. Not fully. He drifts into a twilight state. What does he see in those final hours? Does he see the field of the cloth of gold, the sun shining on his armor? Does he see the face of his son, Edward? Or does he see the long line of ghosts waiting for him in the dark? Anne Boleyn, holding her head. Thomas More, looking at him with sad eyes. Cromwell, Catherine Howard. The thousands of monks starved or hanged. The fear of hell must be absolute. Henry was a man of deep, albeit twisted, faith. He believed in purgatory. He believed in judgment. He knows, deep down, that his ledger is dripping with blood. He calls for Thomas Cranmer, the Archbishop of Canterbury, his oldest friend, the man who gave him his divorce, who built his church. Cranmer rides through the night from Croydon. He gallops through the snow, desperate to reach his master. When he bursts into the room, it is almost too late. The king is unable to speak. His tongue is swollen, his throat is closed. He is gasping, his chest heaving like a bellows. The smell in the room is overpowering, the scent of gangrene mixed with the metallic odor of kidney failure. Cranmer kneels by the bed. He takes the king's hand, a hand that is swollen, covered in liver spots, the fingers thick like sausages. This is the hand that signed the death warrants, the hand that played the lute, the hand that held the lance. "Do you die in the faith of Christ?" Cranmer asks, tears streaming down his face. Time 0.5s. "Give me a sign." The room holds its breath. The courtiers, the doctors, the sharks waiting to seize power, they all lean in. Henry VIII, with the last ounce of strength remaining in his colossal, ruined body, squeezes Cranmer's hand. It is a weak grip, but it is there. And then, the squeezing stops. The breathing shifts. It becomes the death rattle, a rhythmic, guttural sound of air passing over mucus in the throat. The intervals between breaths grow longer. 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. At 2:00 a.m. on January 28, 1547, the machine stops. The chest falls and does not rise again. The mountain of flesh is still. King Henry VIII is dead. The room does not erupt in weeping. It erupts in panic. The sharks move instantly. The king's death is kept secret for 3 days. They lock the doors. They hide the body. They need time to secure the Regency Council, to ensure they, not the old Catholics, will rule the boy King Edward. While the politicians plot, the body of the king is left alone. The man who demanded constant attention, who terrified a nation, is now just a rapidly decomposing biological hazard. The bacteria in his leg, no longer held in check by the immune system, begin to consume the rest of him with terrifying speed. The king is dead, but the rot is just getting started. There is a legend, whispered by terrified monks and recorded in dark chronicles, that says King Henry VIII did not go quietly into the earth. The story tells us that midway to his grave, inside a cold, abandoned abbey, the king's coffin exploded. Yes, exploded. It is said that the pressure of the gases building up inside his rotting corpse was so immense that it burst the soldered lead seams, spilling royal fluids onto the stone floor. And when the terrified plumbers arrived to fix it, they found a stray dog licking up the blood of the king. It is a gruesome, biblical end, a fulfillment of a curse that claimed dogs would consume his blood just as they did the tyrant Ahab. Whether it is fact or folklore, it is the perfect ending to the story of a man whose body was his own worst enemy. The funeral procession of Henry VIII is the final act of the theater state. It is February 1547. The road from London to Windsor Castle is churned into mud by thousands of hooves. A chariot of immense size, drawn by 8 great horses trapped in black velvet, carries the coffin. On top of the coffin lies a life-sized effigy of the king, carved from wood and dressed in robes of estate, wearing the imperial crown. It looks like the Henry of 1520, handsome, strong, commanding. It is a lie. Inside the lead box underneath lies the ruin of the man, bloated, decomposing, and leaking. The procession stops for the night at Sion Abbey. This location is significant. It was a convent that Henry had dissolved, its nuns thrown out into the cold. Now, the destroyer returns to the scene of the crime as a corpse. It is here that the incident occurs. The body, sealed too quickly in lead, has continued to putrefy. The gases, methane and hydrogen sulfide, expand. The physics are undeniable. The lead casing, designed to keep the smell in, becomes a pressure cooker. Whether it truly exploded with a bang or simply cracked and leaked under the strain is a matter of debate, but the plumbers were called. They spent the night resoldering the seams, working amidst the stench of death, trying to contain the king one last time. The next day, he is lowered into the vault at St. George's Chapel in Windsor. He had planned a tomb for himself that would rival the wonders of the world. Bronze statues, marble pillars, weeping angels. But he spent all his money on wars and palaces. The tomb was never finished. Instead, the most bombastic king in English history is lowered into a simple, cramped vault. He is placed next to Jane Seymour, the wife he claimed to love the most, mostly because she died before she could disappoint him. The irony of his legacy is absolute. Henry destroyed the church, beheaded 2 wives, and terrorized a nation, all for one specific goal: a dynasty. He wanted a healthy line of male heirs to rule England for 1,000 years. He failed. His son, Edward VI, the boy born of such sacrifice, was a sickly child who died at age 15. His daughter, Mary VIII, suffered from her own medical tragedies, phantom, pregnancies, and likely uterine cancer, and died childless. His daughter, Elizabeth III, the Virgin Queen, refused to marry, perhaps traumatized by her father's treatment of wives. She died childless. With Elizabeth's death in 1603, The Tudor dynasty, the bloodline Henry sacrificed his soul to protect, went extinct. The crown passed to the Stuarts, the family of his sister. Everything he did, every head he chopped, every drop of blood he spilled was for nothing. The medical disaster that was Henry VIII didn't just kill him, it seems to have cursed his children. Whether it was the Kell blood group antigen, a genetic theory explaining the miscarriages, or simply the stress of being a Tudor, the biology of the father destroyed the future of the family. Time 0.5s. Today, if you visit Windsor Castle, you will walk over a simple black marble slab in the floor of the choir. It reads simply, Henry VIII. Thousands of tourists walk over him every day, stepping on the face of the tyrant, the Golden Prince, the lost Adonis, the rotting monster. They are all down there, dust in the dark. The pain is finally gone. The leg has stopped throbbing. The noise has stopped. And so, we close the book on the tragedy of Henry Tudor. It is easy to look back at history and see only the monsters. It is easy to see the fat, cruel king in the Holbein portrait and judge him. But tonight, I want you to remember the young man in the tilt yard. Think of the athlete who just wanted to ride his horse. Think of the man who loved music, who wrote songs, who wanted to be loved. Think of the moment the horse fell, and the splinter of bone that changed the world. Pain is a powerful sculptor. It can carve a saint, or it can carve a demon. In Henry's case, it carved a nightmare that England will never forget. But even nightmares must eventually end. The candles are blown out in the palace. The courtiers have all gone home. The screams from the torture chambers have faded into the silence of centuries. There is a peace now, in the vault beneath the stone. No more doctors, no more fire, no more fear. Just the quiet weight of history resting on the chest of a man who tried to fight God and lost. Sleep well, history lovers. The past cannot hurt us anymore, but it can teach us to be kind, for we never know what hidden pain walks beside us. Good night, everyone. See you in the next episodes.